Third part. Bloodshot eyes were gazing intently at her from between the bandages. "What's that supposed to mean?" the girl asked. "You're to be our bait for D. Let me be plain. It isn't that I fear him, no. I wish to torment him." "That's just too damn bad," Meg spat venomously. "You think he'll show any interest in a little country girl like me? It's not sunburned skin that suits him. It's a classy woman with skin like pearls. She wouldn't wear a shell necklace like me, but gold accessories with jewels, like you nobles use. And she'd be real good at wearing them." And then, some night when the moon and stars are bright, they'd go out into a garden where beautiful flowers are in bloom, and she'd sing the songs of the night in a voice prettier than any flower. Having said all that, Meg took a deep breath. Without her realizing it, Dandorian had come right down in front of her, and now his left hand was wrapped around her right wrist. A pain not unlike a kind of chill spread through Meg's body, and she couldn't lift a finger. "I'm of the opinion that young man isn't as cold-blooded as he appears. I look forward to seeing his reaction when a female acquaintance is ripped to pieces before his very eyes." Every inch of the girl went cold at once. "Quit it," she shouted, but the words never formed, and when Meg tried to wrench free of the Duke's grip, she moved him no more than a breeze-born feather might have. When Duke Dandorian moved, Meg began to go with him as if she were floating along. "Kindly wait a moment," Denai said, standing before them. "What do you want? There must be a pile of operations which need your attention." "I'm abundantly aware of that. However, first, I owe a debt to that girl." "A debt?" asked the Duke. "Can you not wait until that debt has been repaid?" "I know not what this debt may be, but the answer is no. The girl is mine. Please reconsider. Step aside." The Duke's right arm arced out toward Denai's shoulder. It sliced through empty air. Denai had swayed back beautifully. "Denai!" The Duke's reaction was a second too slow. Twin beams of red pierced Dandorian's shoulders and eyes at almost the same time. The beam's 100 million degrees of temperature could stave off even the regenerative powers of a noble's indestructible cells for quite some time. As the Duke dropped dejectedly to his knees, Denai pulled Meg close and said, "I shall take my punishment later. I'm off to bring the girl to the confinement center for the test subjects." And with that, he turned his back on the Duke. After walking about 30 feet, Denai halted. He turned around. Flattened snakes were trailing along at his feet. They carpeted the corridor, and the instant he realized they were the same bandages that Duke Dandorian wore, Denai shoved Meg forward and prepared to make a leap. The time he'd given Meg meant he was too late. The bandages wrapped around Denai's ankles in midair and dragged him back down the corridor, where the other flattened snakes wrapped around him en masse and tightened. Flesh popped and bones creaked. A scream of pain and bloody foam erupted from Denai's mouth. "I shall tear you to bits, Lord Denai," Duke Dandorian told him as he staggered to his feet, his words like a hex. "Take off your arms, your legs, even your head, and then I shall impale your torso." "On a pike." "How very thoughtful," Denai said, his body left looking like some horribly misshapen monstrosity from the bandages sinking into his flesh. There was a dull snap. His ribs had broken. Disgorging another gout of blood, Denai's lips twisted into a grin. The dazzling red beam swiped vertically, cutting all the bandages. The light then pointed upward, not at the Duke, but at the ceiling. It was unclear what sort of path the beams traced, but the Duke was crushed beneath several tons of rock that fell a heartbeat later. As if from a nuclear explosion, a rumble and a dusty wind howled down the corridor. "Are you okay?" Meg asked, running over to Denai's twisted form. "You mustn't come near me. These bandages are poisoned," the noble exclaimed, shoving Meg away. "To reach the confinement center, go straight until you get to the vertical conveyor. Take that to the surface, and head north. There are 10 black buildings there. They are in the third from the eastern side. Go quickly." Meg hesitated. "What about you?" "As I expected. Even Duke Dendorian has his limits," Denai said, crushed so thoroughly. "He won't be too quick to heal. Go on ahead." "But you'll be coming later?" Meg asked, suddenly feeling helpless. At the same time, she was also concerned for the nobleman. At the very least, he had done his best to honor the promise he'd made to a human girl. "I know not," Denai replied, gazing at Meg. "Hurry and go. Make good your escape. I must warn you that once you reach the confinement center, my promise to you ends. When next we meet, you will be just one more of my prey." His eyes were blazing red, and a disturbing pair of fangs poked from the corners of his mouth. Meg backed away, not out of fear, rather, it was to sever her emotional ties to Lord Denai. "I'll cross that sea when I get to it. So long. You've been a big help." Something glistened in Meg's eyes. Perhaps noticing it, Denai raised one hand and said, "Good luck to you." His eyes were invested with a warm and peaceful glow, and his fangs couldn't be seen. Meg started running. Tears slid down her cheeks, and that was another way of bidding farewell. So the brave girl has left. After Meg's footfalls were no longer audible, Denai looked down at the far end of the corridor and the stony heap of rubble. Would his own cells fill in his pulverized flesh quickly, or would Duke Dendorian recover from being crushed first? It was a race against the clock. The pain was receding. The regenerative abilities of Lord Denai's cells were beginning to have some effect. "This may work," he thought aloud, and then his noble hearing caught a sound that should have struck terror in him. The sound of a small piece of stone hitting the floor. Denai focused his eyes past his feet, and there was a mountain of stone. Beneath it was the Duke. "Hurry up and heal, damn you." The mountain of stone shook distinctly. Page break. Running all the way, it took the girl 10 minutes to reach the confinement center. She couldn't locate any doors in the building's metallic surface, and though Meg kicked and punched at it, it had no effect at all. She was just considering going back to look for some sort of tool when she sensed a presence behind her that froze her body. It was a ghastly aura on a completely different level from any of the others she'd met, and it made Meg's heart stop. "I'm dead. I'm going to die just like this." Her consciousness drifted away. Without warning, the presence vanished. Staggering, Meg fell to the ground, then propped herself up with one arm. Desperately craning her neck, she looked back. Dee? It didn't even occur to the girl that this might be some illusion the Duchess had conjured. "So you're okay?" Though the girl knew Dee was merely confirming her condition, a shudder of emotion ran through her. Of course, she spat back, just so he wouldn't see through her. It would seem you haven't concluded your business here yet, Dee said, shooting a quick glance at the building before turning his back to Meg. His treatment of her was so callous, Meg didn't even think before shouting, "Hey, are you being a little too cold? Give me some help here." Not halting, Dee asked, "With what?" Knowing that he wasn't the kind to ask about others' affairs, Meg felt her chest swell with hope. "I want to get into this building, but I can't find an entrance. Can't you do something?" Dee didn't stop. "The folks from the village are in here. I finally found them. All I have to do is get 'em out and put 'em in a boat. Please, get this place open." Dee turned around, not even glancing at Meg. He walked toward the building. Yes, Meg thought, pumping a fist in her heart of hearts. Halting by the front of the building, Dee pulled something weird out of his coat. "Is that your left hand?" Meg said nothing more, watching as Dee used his right hand to press the palm of the severed left hand against the wall before him. In the section around it, an area 10 feet high and 6 feet wide changed color. Though it was a metal wall, the hunter touched his chin at the part that had turned pale blue and seemed to be breathing, saying, "The rest you should know. The way you are now." He looked at Meg. Meg really wondered if her heart was going to stop. He knows. He knows I've been turned into a servant of the nobility. And she had to wonder why, then, the vampire hunter had bothered to aid her. "Dee, I'm..." "See to it that we don't have to meet again." Meg's pained confession was met with a tone that seemed to reduce it to fog. And then Dee started once again down the same road. Just before his broad back melded with the darkness, the girl managed to squeeze out a cry of, "Thank you." And then, in her heart of hearts, she murmured, "I love you." "Poor thing," said the hoarse voice. "The girl wound up with the blood of the nobility. You tried to sell her. Seems she's in love with you and yet." Dee struck the chest of his coat with his fist. There was a squeal, and then it grew quiet. The hunters walked, quiet but shrouded in an aura so ghastly, people would want to cover their eyes, and did quickly. When he came to just about the center of a vast square-like area, a figure surrounded by 4 cylinders flew down from the sky, halting about 15 feet off the ground. "Do you remember me? I'm guilty," the Baron informed Dee, flames of enmity clinging to every inch of the nobleman. Chapter 9, End.